Hi, my friends. We will get started probably, hopefully, here in about 4 minutes. Looks like we have about 40 people registered, which is great. So thanks for coming. And I will first apologize for the children in the background that hopefully won't be too terrible today. Just another welcome. We'll try to get started in about 2 minutes. People are sharing where they're from here on the right. It's so good to see so many faces that we would see in person at the roundtable. Yay! And hopefully we'll see you again in a few days, and then maybe a few days after that by next week. Hi, John. Oh, you're muted.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. I unmuted you.
okay. Thank you. That was probably my wife who muted me.
Well, you come on muted, but yeah, in theory, yes, I think our spouses would all mute all of us. I'm gonna put you back on mute, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Hey guys, it's Preston and Laura Becca here. We're excited to talk to you here in just a few minutes. So we're about to get started. We're checking our camera. Our mic seems to be working. Everybody can hear us okay? Awesome. Sometimes these Zoom meetings, you just never know, you know?
Lauren, thanks for scheduling this, and we hope that we can really help essentially give you a guideline about what the Google Ad Grant does, and then answer any questions you have as you're going through it. So definitely say something if you have a question, or raise your hand and we'll try and make sure we get you.
Yep.
Okay, so on that note, it is 1 o'clock. So please feel free to, like the cone said, either raise a hand or there's a chat box, and Preston and I can keep an eye on the chat box too to write down questions if they spin up too fast, and then
it's just too many to handle.
Yes, I hope so.
I hope so too.
Just to give you guys some background as to how we got to this place was, and for the cone's sake, we in San Diego have a grant. There's a child right there. Have a grant roundtable of right now 70, 80 nonprofits in San Diego. We meet every 6 weeks to talk about development things and how to keep money in San Diego, and how do we serve those who how do we meet our mission collaboratively, maybe, so that more funding can come to us that way. And
that's awesome.
So I sent an email a few weeks ago to the group asking if there were any Google Ad experts in our group. And I got an overwhelming response of, no, I'd love to know though. No, that would be totally cool. Like, can you? And I was like, okay. And so that's how, for everyone, for the cones as well as everybody else, that's how we got here. And I'm part of a Facebook page. If those in the room are, it's called Nonprofits Unleashed on Facebook. And that's how I found Cone Creative. And that's how we got here. So with no further, let's get started. Again, to say where you're with, you can put out some questions and I'll let the cones get started.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Lauren. I appreciate it. Just I'll give you a little background on who we are, guys, and kind of what we've done. And of course, like Lauren said, feel free to raise your hand, ask a question, take yourself off mute and say something, or just type it in the comments. And at the end, we can also have just kind of a straight up question and answer time too. So if you don't want to interject, feel free to wait to the end and we can chat about that then.
I will say it's really neat that you have this kind of round table. I feel like nonprofits, it's so good to be able to talk to so many other people and get information and share information and ideas, specifically the fact that it's all in one area. I think that's really neat. So
yeah,
kind of a cool thing you already got going on. So that's awesome.
And even, to piggyback on that, during this time, we are, as an agency, able to say, okay, here's some things that we can help out with, right? Like there's obviously things you can go, hey, we want to hire someone to do that. That's great. But if we can give you some information and it makes your nonprofit a little more successful during this tough time right now that everybody's facing and dealing with, then we want to do that. We had a call recently with brick and mortar businesses locally in our small town. And we just said, hey, here's some suggestions. Here's some things that you can do yourself. You don't have to hire us. You can do it yourself, but take advantage of it right now because people are feeling the pressure kind of more than ever, to make sure that they're taking advantage of everything that's out there for them. So we want to be able to help, and we want to make sure this is information that you can take and go, okay, this helps me be educated. I can go talk to the board about it. I can go talk to big donors. I can get this process started right off the bat. So without any further ado, let me jump into who I am and why you're listening to me talk about this. I started off actually my digital marketing career working at Facebook. I worked at Facebook to help businesses spend anywhere from $500 a month to $50,000 a month. Those are guys who are people like Logan's Roadhouse, restaurants, or Oriental Trading Company is an online e-commerce store that you guys may be familiar with as well. So we worked with a lot of different people to help them spend effectively on Facebook. After that, I worked with some political groups helping to raise money in the small dollar donor section. And that's kind of where I learned, how does the donation process even work? Like, why are we getting donors? What's the point? How do we get donors? How do we engage them? And how do we do all this effectively? Shortly thereafter, my wife and I, after actually encouragement from my wife, to start what we call Cone Creatives. That's our digital marketing agency that works for for-profit businesses. We work with e-commerce stores. We work with realtors. We work with real estate brokers. Yeah, we work with kind of across the spectrum there. And about 6 months to a year into starting Cone Creatives, a friend came to me and he goes, hey, Preston, I got a big donor. He wants to support me. We want to do some work on Facebook. Can you help me see if we can get donations and get supporters for my organization this way? And I was like, I've done some stuff. Let's see if we can kind of combine those things. And we actually had quite a bit of success. So the first campaign that I ran for a nonprofit ever generated about $70,000 and generated 95,000 email addresses using Facebook to get those for them within 32 days. And this was almost 2 times the amount that we spent on those campaigns. So we're immediately making money back. So that was kind of, net positive. So that was kind of a flag to me going, okay, this can work. What other resources are there available that I need to look into? Because
for nonprofits.
Yeah, for nonprofits. Because we both had more fulfillment feeling like, hey, if we can work with a nonprofit and they're, feeding people, they're housing people, they're doing these good works that we can feel supportive of, it's a wonderful thing. From a digital marketer's perspective, I could sell soap if I wanted to, but I would much rather, maybe now I need it, people need it, but I would much rather sell something that I feel like I'm able to provide value to. And, basically we're trying to amplify the work of the nonprofits that we work for. So we really kind of plug in and become those people who work with the nonprofit to do everything from securing the website to any marketing related things, make sure that those are effectively working. And we've had a lot of success. So we've worked with quite a few nonprofits, and we're very excited to be able to talk to you about it today. But that kind of brings us into what I learned as I was doing a lot of research and going, okay, the Facebook side of things is a huge piece. As a marketer, I know that's how we can reach out to a lot of people easily on Facebook and on Instagram.
But that needs funds.
But that requires funds. You got to spend some money on that, right? So that requires you to input a certain amount of budget in order to get hopefully double the amount of in return. But that can be costly to expend. So I was looking into it and I found out the Google Ad Grant, right? The Google Ad Grant is $10,000 a month, which is amazing. We'll go ahead and jump on into some of the details about it. It's $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year for you math geniuses out there like me. It equates to, what does this turn into, right? If we get $10,000 a month, generally for most nonprofits, this equates to about 5,000 people who will see and have the opportunity to click on one of your ads and visit your website. Now, what is the Google Ad Grant paying for? They don't just hand you $10,000, unfortunately, to use for whatever you want to use. That would be nice. There are other grants available for that type of thing. This is specifically for search ads on Google. So what does that mean? Well, if we have a nonprofit that is, for example, using, we have a nonprofit that we work with, it's called Mercy International. And they work with people over in Haiti to do, to feed them, to house them, to clothe them, to educate, all these different things. And so what we're doing is we're building out these campaigns for them so that when someone searches, build a house or donate to a cause or, Haiti relief or Haiti medical, or maybe they're a person who cares more about education, right? They can look at education and they can type in some search results into Facebook, or into Google, and our ad will pull up as an advertisement above the search results that are those organic results that you would see below, right? So our ad pops up at the top, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to support us. Another example would be we work with an animal rescue organization that is
an animal sanctuary.
It's a sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
As well. So a lot of people are searching for, hey, I got an animal that I found that fell in my backyard. It's a squirrel, or like, what do I do for that? They're able to help those people. They're able to help people who need to get out of those situations, that have an animal, that have a pet, that are just searching for some way to take care of that. But they're also able to get people who want to donate and support those causes, or maybe even sign a petition, or sign a poll, for example. So one of the things we're running for them right now, and we're working on finalizing the Google Ad Grant for them and getting approved, is Facebook ads for this specific thing. So what we're able to do is we'll say, hey, if you sign our petition, this petition enables us to get motivation and movement by the local police departments, by the state and federal governments, by animal control. And not only that, we're going to educate people so that people, before they buy a tiger or before they buy a horse that they can't take care of, they need to know the responsibilities. They need to be able to adequately understand what's going on. And so for about 10 cents a piece, we're getting people to sign up for this email list and sign this petition. So petitions and polls are a really great way to get people's engagement. And kind of what I've always said to people is it's kind of like a lure, right? If you go out fishing and you're going to fish for a specific fish, I'm not a huge fisherman, but if I do, you go out and you fish and you want to fish for a particular thing, right? You throw that lure out in the ocean, you want to attract the right fish. And that's kind of what we're doing, right? We want to show them something that they're interested in, like a petition or a poll in those specific topics, that they will then say, you know what, I'm going to sign that petition. And by them taking that action, that's them basically raising their hand and saying, hey, I care about your organization. I care about what you do, and I want to know more about it. And not only that, I might even want to donate to it.
And each of y'all's nonprofit has a specific cause. You have something you're specifically trying to help, or you have multiple things. And there's always a point where some people are going to be able to be interested in what you're talking about. You just have to phrase it correctly for them to take an action, to donate, to volunteer, to sign up, to know more about what you're doing. And those are what that we're trying to do. And the Google Ad Grant helps with that, because you're at the top of the search. And so when you get the Google Ad Grant, essentially you have $10,000 in SEO ads. And it's a huge thing. It's a really big deal. If you get 5,000 users to get to your site a month, a percentage of those will transform into people who are going to volunteer, people who are going to donate. Some may get really involved and eventually become part of your board or part of your nonprofit in general. And so these Google Ad Grants, it's just a small part of a bigger picture. And so we actually created a different company called Donor Curve. And the truth is, we did it because the curve of a donor goes up. So if you get someone to get engaged and sign up for your newsletter, the chances they're going to continue to be part of your ministry for a longer time or part of your nonprofit. And that's just kind of the benefits of it.
Right. So by signing that petition, they give us their email address, they give us their phone number, their name, and they basically say, hey, I'm interested in this. And that is why we started Donor Curve. Donor Curve is the acquiring of a new user or a new supporter who over time will give us more funding, right? So month one, if I get 4 or 5 people to sign that petition and it costs me 20 cents a piece, then I need $1 or $2 back out of those 4 or 5 people to be able to pay for that right off the bat. Now, what happens in a month when I send those same people who are interested and care about my cause an email that says, hey, I actually want to support you again, or you know, I have a campaign I need your help with, right? I'm trying to raise enough money to support X number of kids or families or feed X number of people. Then they're going to give another $1, right? So now that's basically free money at that point, because sending an email out is very, very inexpensive, as you guys know, if you have the right systems in place. But these are a lot of the details that we kind of weave into the Facebook and the Google side. We're going to get back onto the Google side because I know that's why all of you guys are here. And so what is it, right? What do you get when you sign up for the Google for Nonprofits
And how
account?
do you sign up for it? So
There's basically two parts to the Google Ad Grant that are required. The first part is you have to become a Google Nonprofits member. You got to be accepted and verified by Google. That's just to become, just to get the Google for Nonprofits account. Now, how many, just quick raise of hands, have the Google for Nonprofits account but don't have the Ad Grant? Is there anyone? Okay, so none of you at this point that I'm seeing on my screen have. Is anybody saying that they do in the comments? I'd be interested to see if anyone has the nonprofit account status with Google, but doesn't have the Ad Grant. If you just post in there as we talk, that'd be great. But essentially, you get approved by Google to do the nonprofits account. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like a couple of things. They give you free storage for all of your users on your
obviously
on Google, right? So you get free email address domains. So typically, a nonprofit will have to have www.mercyinternational.org, right? And that's the domain of their website. Now, if you want an email address from that, you generally have to pay another $5 or $10 per month per user that you're going to be able to sign up. So if you got a marketing guy, if you got your board members, if you have your director, all of those people are going to have emails, and that's going to be costly. So Google provides that for you for free as well. You'll also have, like I said, each username or each email address that they give you will also be able to have storage. You'll also be able to get a special nonprofit YouTube account. There are a number of other benefits that you can get from Google, including additional support by simply having the nonprofits account. And that is before you get access to the Ad Grant itself. So once,
the first part.
So first part is go to Google. You're going to be able to sign up, and I can send you the link afterwards. In fact, I have a document that kind of explains exactly the process of how to do this. But you'll go to Google, you'll sign up for the Google for Nonprofits account, and it takes a few days for them to verify you. If you have a TechSoup account already, which many of you may, this will actually speed up the process. Google uses TechSoup to be able to verify that you are a nonprofit that is doing good work, that's real, that actually has accredited status, and all of those things with the state and local and federal level.
I will say one thing, 501c3s are the only ones that are allowed to get the Google Ad Grant. You can't have a 501c4. So we've had a couple of people ask us, and that is not an option for a 501c4.
Right. I know there's a lot of different versions of 501c. It has to be the 501c3 nonprofit organization to be able to get Google Ad Grant status.
And it has to be by the IRS, has to have given you that verification, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so once you've gotten that, you'll work with Google back and forth on that. They're gonna send you some requirements. They're gonna email you back and forth asking for verification, getting some emails from you. All of those things take about a month generally. Sometimes it can be a little bit faster. It doesn't take you a month worth of full-time work. It just takes you a month of following up on it because it takes them a long time to verify back and forth. Several weeks go by before you really even hear anything. Once you get approval, most people at that point think that they're done. That's when they think, you see most people in these nonprofit groups or chats, and they go, hey, I got approved for nonprofits. Why is my ad grant not happening? Like, what's happening next? Well, what happens is basically Google says, okay, great, you're a verified organization with nonprofits. Now, if you want to become an ad grant, to get the ad grant, you've got to get approval as well. And that's an additional step. They're going to ask you several things. They're going to ask you to create a test campaign in Google search to be able to verify that you know what you're doing.
And you have to do 2.
They want you to be able to create, you have to run 2 different ads in that. Again, not super complicated, but if you're not familiar with it, there are some things that you might miss out on. Then they're going to ask you to take a couple tests. You're going to take a very short 5 to 10 minute quiz, and they're going to ask you a few questions on, do you know how to run a search campaign? Do you know how the click requirements for Google Grants? You know, they have certain metrics that they're trying to make sure that nonprofits hit every month in order to be qualified and continue to get that $10,000 a month in advertising.
And to fully spend that $10,000 as well.
Right. They don't want to give it to someone who is going to use it either, one, wrongly for different organizations or things that they shouldn't be doing for, or two, they don't want to give it to someone who's just not going to know what they're doing, and so they're targeting the wrong types of people. Google is very much focused on, if you search for something, you better find what you're searching for. And that's the same way with the ads. If you run an ad that's misleading, or if you're not sure how to run it and you're running it to a page about how to donate to build a water well, but you don't mention that in the ad, they're going to ding you for that, and they're going to turn that off, and you're not going to know why, but it's because simple targeting and keyword issues there. So there's a few things that Google is going to go back. And then at the very end, once you get everything approved, they're going to be asking you for the ad account number that you built. Here's another thing that I see a lot of people doing wrong is they build one ad account at the very beginning of the first step. And when Google asks for it again, they don't know how to find it, and they haven't named it. So they end up going back and creating a different Google Ads account, or maybe a different person creates it at this point. Because again, remember, this is several weeks down the road.
Yeah.
And so maybe the intern who was hired to do this or who was volunteered to do this is gone. And what ends up happening is a different username or different login is used to try to access that AdWords account, and it becomes very difficult. So it's not difficult in terms of organization or of how to access it, but if you're not familiar with it, it's an additional hassle to be able to get through. So I recommend at this step, go ahead and take the time to name your ad account. You know, go in there, you can go to settings, and you can actually go and you can name it, you know, whatever, Happy Tales or Mercy International or whatever your nonprofit account is. But that's the step where you want to go ahead and name that account. That's a very important part of the process.
And you might actually want to even send an email to yourself with that account, because the truth is, like, if you're looking for it in a month, the chances are you may not find it, not because you're incompetent, it's just hard to find. And I don't know if it's intentional, but it is just kind of how they do it.
Exactly. I also recommend saving the URLs, right? So,
or bookmark it, yeah. Yeah,
or bookmark it, right? There's a lot of things that you can do that are just difficult to find later, and you go, wait a minute, I was on that URL, but what was it? I can't remember. If you can find the URL, usually you can navigate to find the ad account and everything else. So those are a couple of the tips and tricks there. But you know, then once you're able to get into it, that's the time where you go, okay, I've gotten approval. Google's now giving me the $10,000 a month. And what do I do? Like, how do I apply this money and actually have it spend on my website? Because at the end of the day, they may give you $10,000 a month, but if you're only able to acquire 25 clicks at $5 a piece, Well, you're not spending that $10,000. So you have to have relevant keywords on your landing pages, and you have to have relevant ads, and you have to have relevant campaigns built out. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and we'll kind of walk through some of the basics. And again, I'm gonna also include after this, if you want, you can get a sheet that kind of walks you through the step-by-step process, because let's face it, it's kind of hard to talk through this and not be able to actually walk through some step-by-step guides.
One real quick question before he goes into the next part. Google will want you to have your site secure, and they will want you to essentially, if there's issues with the donate, if you have to click out of your site to donate, which we're having an issue with one of our nonprofits we've been working on for a period of time. We've been working with Google. So we are actively working with Google for this specific nonprofit to get them approved. But it has taken us probably about 2 months. And this is us, they saying, hey, you need to update the website. You need to do these things. We update it. We go back to them. They say, oh, you still need to do this, this, and this. We go back, we update it. So it is a constant kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had one that like literally got approved within like 3 days. But then some, it's been 2 months. It just depends on the nonprofit and that status. But I would recommend, if you're taking donations on your website, make sure your site is secure. That's just something, and you have a privacy policy attached to the page. Okay.
Yeah, no, all of those things are very accurate. Google does not do a great job of Google or Facebook, they don't do a great job of telling you what the problem is. They kind of give you some regurgitated comments based on just an automatic response, and it's not all that helpful. I mean, for about 3 weeks on the client that Laura Becca just mentioned, we were working to get the ad grant approved, and I talked to support for hours and hours and hours every week, trying to get it fixed, only to find out about 3 days ago that the reason there was an issue was we submitted, not we, the client submitted in the original ad grant application a .org domain instead of a .com domain, which is their primary domain. Google verifies all these things, and since that was a very small error, it's taken a very long time. Now, support didn't tell me that week 1. They didn't tell me at week 2. They didn't tell me week 3. They finally told me week 4 when I got onto a manager, and I said, what in the heck is going on? You got to tell me what's going on here. I want to fix this. And so we made it a bunch of changes that probably weren't even necessary, because they just didn't communicate clearly on that. So you do have to do some things. And there are some standard protocols, like Laura Becca said, that you want to follow. You always want to have site security. HTTP, SSL is a security thing that you need on your website no matter what. Even because if you're taking donations, you already need to have that security anyways. It builds trust, and it is a security issue.
It's a benefit for your nonprofit.
Then there's also privacy policy. That's another thing. If you see on your website that things are confusing, if you go to the donate page, for example, and it links out to a Network for Good page, or it links out to your donor platform, whatever you use, that's not your domain, that's going to be an issue, and Google's not going to approve you for that. So these are things that you can kind of try to avoid up front, and go through and make just a list, just a short little bullet point list of, okay, here are the things I need to get fixed, right? I need to find a web developer. I need to use my interns. Or I need to figure out some way to get this done. And if so, what does that look like exactly?
And we know nonprofits are not known for their techiness, right? You're known for your passion for what your cause is. And so we understand that. So generally when we help a nonprofit, we actually are the ones who go in and add all this. When I say SSL certificate, most people are like, what are you talking about? That just means it secures your site. You have to pay for it to be secure. So we are the ones who generally go in and edit the website, add security, add a privacy policy, and then reapply to Google.
Yeah. Yep. We get what they say back. We try to make adjustments. We try to go back and forth on all that. So that's kind of the back and forth there. Now, once you have those campaigns, once you've gotten approval for the ad grant, that's the point where it gets the most confusing for most people. And I've had a lot of people say, okay, if I got for the first hurdle, which a lot of people get stuck on, then the second hurdle is, okay, now I've got my cheap little ad account that I created, and I got $10,000 in here, but I don't know how to build these campaigns. A little tip is go onto your website, and every tab of your website generally can be its own campaign. So one of the things I did when I first got started with Google Ad Grants is I took one of the nonprofits we were working for, And I basically said, okay, they build homes, they educate people, they feed people, and they what do they else? They work with sex trafficking,
Yeah.
people in the sex trafficking arena. This is in Haiti. And so how do I build out a campaign? Well, I want to build out campaigns and keywords for each one of those tabs. To me, that's a very easy, straightforward process to go, okay, how do I get started? I don't know. Take it one step at a time. Go to your website, look at the topics that, or you already know, the things that are near and dear to your organization's heart. Focus on those and build out 4 or 5 campaigns on those things. Each one of those things will have its own keywords, its own landing page, because you've probably built out a landing page already about that topic. If you want to, you can look at a website that we work on. It's called mercyinternational.org. And I think it's mercyintl.org. It's not you won't look at it and go, oh my gosh, this is the best website I've ever seen. But what you will see is that each tab is very specific, and all of the ads that are running to each of those tabs are specific for that tab. So I'm not running a page to, donate to feed people in Haiti, and there's not an ad when someone searches something that says build a house, right? That would be misleading. That would take them to a page that people wouldn't want to see. If they're talking about building a house, that's probably because they're a builder or they have experience with that and they want to provide value in that specific thing. And so Google says, okay, here's an ad for that. If you like this, click through. They click through, they visit your landing page. If they read more content about that makes sense, that's the point where they go, okay, this is an organization that I care about and I want to participate in. And that's why it's important on those landing pages to have a contact us form. Towards the middle or bottom of that page, pretty much every page that you're having anybody push to, you should have a contact us form. And it will look like not necessarily a normal website, a business site where you're saying, hey, just contact us for whatever. What you're saying is support us to find more information about this, right? For example, we were talking about feeding the hungry earlier, right? To combat hunger, click here, right? Give us your email address. Help us by donating $1. Once they sign up for that email address form, that's what I was talking about. Then you can redirect them to a donation page. And that donation page says, thank you so much for caring about the hungry in Haiti. Your voice makes a huge difference. Now, if you could please give us $1 or $5 to help continue our work, we'll be able to do more and impact more lives in Haiti. So that's generally how we set up those campaigns.
Yeah, and what he's saying is correct about a contact form. Also, for each website, we really recommend a pop-up that when people are exiting your site, it's a pop-up that says, want to learn more about our cause, sign up for our newsletter. This is a really easy way to get emails for cheap. And like we're saying, emails are a very cheap way to get more support, more donors, more everything. It's great to have a huge list of emails that you can go to when you need something. And it's also great to be able to share your ministry with them too. So definitely have a pop-up. And also on all those pages that he's talking about, have a contact, but also have a donate button. Make sure there's a donate option, because if they're reading and they're impacted and they think, oh my gosh, this is such a neat cause, I 100% want to donate. You want it to be easy, you want it to be simple, and you want it to just be like, boom, 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 done.
Right. The more steps, the more pages that you have to direct them to, the more people who care about your cause that will just leave because they're tired or bored or something else distracted them.
It is a fascinating thing that people will not stay longer than, I think, 0.06 seconds if the page doesn't load. People are ridiculous.
It depends upon kind of what the topic is, but the longer the load time, the longer the page load, the more difficult you're going to have. So a couple of questions that we get pretty frequently on this is, how long does this take, right? If I'm going to get the nonprofit account, if I'm going to get the Google Ad Grant account, how long is it going to take? And how long is it going to take me to run these campaigns? I generally say it's going to take about 1 to 2 months to get approval and get your ad grant. Now, in terms of actually running the account, for someone who's new and not experienced on how to run search campaigns, it's probably going to take you, a good bit of time each week to be able to create those. Once you get up and running, I'm suggesting between 1 to 2 hours a week to run those and get those up. To build it out, it could take you 5 to 10 hours a week just to get started. So, take your time. You don't have to build out all the tabs all at one time. Like we talked about, start with the most important topic that your organization focuses on and build out a campaign from there. That's going to be the most important thing that you want to do. And you can look at that very easily. All right. Another thing we say is, all right, well, the Google Ad Grants is great, but how long has it been around, and is it going to be around for much longer for me? Facebook had a grants platform for a little while, and it was gone like that. They had it out for a couple of years. So Google has actually been around for 15 years for the ad grant, and they really launched it about 2 years after the AdWords campaign was first launched or first released. And so I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. They want to provide this for nonprofits, and they have essentially free bandwidth to give this to you. So it's a great, great value. How much can my nonprofit get every year from this? Well, we've already talked about it. It's $120,000 a year in Google search money that you'll be able to use very easily. And then another one is, well, what is the requirements? What makes me eligible for the Google grant? And that, again, we kind of mentioned earlier, but you got to hold a valid charity status, which is a 501c3 status. You got to acknowledge and take the required certifications and skills that Google is asking you to take in the application process. You have to have a website that is functioning and provides adequate detail, and you have to have site security. Those are the real basic things that you need in order to be able to get approved from the Google Ad Grant. On top of that, I'm going to say, if you don't have the ability to receive a donation, you got to get that fixed right off the bat. I mean, there's no reason to be running people to your nonprofit who can't also participate and give to you immediately. So this is a little bit about the Google Ad Grants, the Google for Nonprofits. There is a whole lot we can dive into. I'd be happy to answer questions or thoughts that people might have, and kind of see if we can just kind of take a springboard from there and answer any questions that you might have.
And we do know this is a ton of information. So we are aware, we've obviously been working on this for years, which is why we are able to do that. But that's why webinars like this is really helpful. So if you have a question, please ask us. We want to help. We love working with nonprofits. It means a lot to us. It really does. Lauren, she just got over the first hurdle. She's almost, poor thing. It's killing her. It's killing her. We're going to do it though. We're going to do it.
I have on my list to do. First campaign is on my today list.
Look at that.
There we go.
It's going to be beautiful.
Like chicken scratch, so don't, yes, but it's.
Yes, sir.
I need a raise.
You tell him. You tell him.
Hey, John.
How you doing? Well, listen, my name's John Alvarado, as you can see on the screen. I've been doing this really as a nonprofit for like 50 years, okay? But formally, only about 8 or 9 years as a 501c3, okay? One of the things that I have found is that I am so busy in the day-to-day operations, okay, that it's very difficult to go ahead and do some of this without having a dedicated person for that, okay? So, because you got to stay on top of it, people will, yeah, I would like to donate. Can you email me some additional information?
Right.
So on and so forth, right? And so there's a lot of that. And then we started doing that, a bit. And I'm just wondering what your solution was. My problem is we weren't big enough. We make like 30 to 50 grand a year, and my wife and I, we put in mostly our money to go ahead and support this. And then, we found this one group, and everything was looking great. And they go, "You do less than $500,000 a year?"
See, that's why you need it. And so we understand that y'all's jobs are so involved. And so what we do is we actually we try and make it very inexpensive. We do $500 to apply for the Google Ad Grant for you. So what we do is, and I do mean we work back and forth, we do all sorts of stuff to apply for you. And then once you're approved, which we haven't had anyone who hasn't been approved. Everyone we've worked with has been approved.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, right?
I've already gone through that step and I have been approved. Okay?
Awesome. That's great.
But once again, like you said, there's the putting all the ads, the landing pages, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And, I'm just wondering because I'm literally right at the front door of the Promising. I'm 3 blocks from the water's edge. I was born across the street from my office 70 years ago.
How cool.
And my family's been on this street for about 100 years. Okay. So we're really entrenched, if you will. But, it's amazing to me how many individuals for some reason don't get it. I'll give you for instance. About a month and a half ago, when they were starting to really start talking about this pandemic, we reached out to some people who in the past have been willing to help us, and they have. And they said, well, what do you need the money for? And I said, well, we want to help the homeless here in our community. And none of them have sanitary cleaner. Many of them are living underneath the bridge. None of them have masks. Many of them don't have food. And they go, well, leave that up to the other people who are officially, if you will, involved in that. Well, if you go to the convention center here in San Diego, things are working pretty good. Or if you go to National City, same thing. Everything's moving pretty good. But Barrio Logan, okay, is in a dead zone. And in some ways, I mean that literally. We've got seniors here, okay, who are my age and older, and they can't get out of bed hardly. Okay?
Wow, that's hard.
So we've been delivering food, so on and so forth. When I asked for funding to provide masks, I was told that, no, you don't understand. Doctors are saying you don't need masks. And I said, listen.
Ahead of your time, John.
I've been around long enough to know that that's going to change. No, you're a fisherman. You provide outdoor this and blah, 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 blah. And wouldn't you know it, 3 days later, right? They demand it. I also mentioned the fact that, nurses and doctors need masks, okay? My niece is a nurse, okay? And
so John, so quick question, just to get back to your question real quick on this. Are you asking how would you get started with the ad grant as a small nonprofit who doesn't have the budget to pay tons of money out the door? Or
Yeah.
what?
well,
That's
to
what
a
I heard
certain,
too. You were talking about, John, you that you have a low budget and a low man. So how it sounds like the first thing you said is it sounds like you need someone dedicated to this.
well, we do, and we need help. And it looks like, what is it? Cone? C-O-N-E?
G-O-N-E, like ice cream. That's
That's
it.
right.
I like that. Ice cream, that is.
Me too. I'm with you.
So let's just say I'm reaching out to you today to ask you to come and help the Good Neighbor Project. Our whole slogan is we're changing our world one neighbor at a time.
I love it.
I don't know what it's going to cost, but I feel very alone right now in Barrio Logan. And we need to take this to the top. I know it's going to cost money, but you know what? You tell me how much, I'll go rob a bank.
John,
we don't recommend that.
don't
We
recommend robbing
recommend
your bank.
I
But-
have a mask now. I can do that.
John, let me address this because I think that's a great point that you bring up. One of the things that I talk to nonprofits about all the time, they go, look, I'm a small nonprofit. I can't even afford to hire
Or to pay myself.
I'm not even paying myself. Like, what do you expect me to do? How can I do this? Well, so I like to pitch it this way, and I like to suggest, and I provide some resources to clients or potential clients that we're talking to, because I know nonprofits are this way. Like, I would never want to work with a nonprofit who has to come out and say, you know what, I got to spend money on you, and I don't even know if it's going to be profitable for me. If I'm going to work for a nonprofit, I want to make sure I'm getting you net profitable campaigns. That means you put $1 in, you need to be able to get $1 or more out of that immediately to be able to pay for those campaigns. When I talk to the nonprofits that I talk to, I tell them, hey, a good strategy is to go to your large donors and explain to them with the document that I provide, explain to them exactly what we're going to do. We're going to try to get petition signatures. We're going to get email addresses, and those people are going to donate to us. And so right off the bat, we're net even or net positive on the campaigns that we're running. That means if you give me $5,000 today for my nonprofit, tomorrow I won't need $5,000. We're making self-sustaining digital marketing campaigns. This is hard for people to understand. It's difficult because it's just not the world that most people live in, right? We don't live in the world where you put $1 in and you get $1 out. Usually you put $1 in, you're not going to get $1 out. You're going to get less than that out. And that's actually, in some cases, in some digital marketing campaigns, that could be a win. But for nonprofits who are operating with very little room for error, you got to be able to immediately make that money back. So that's when I said earlier, if we get 4 or 5 people to join our mailing list, and it costs us, with that free Google money, let's say, it costs us 20 cents a piece or $1 a piece, I want them to be able to give us about $1 back for every 4 or 5 people who join our mailing list. That means we're paying for all of the marketing campaigns, if that makes sense. It's the same on the Facebook side of things. If someone's joining us and we're spending $1 on Facebook, I want them to get $1 out of it immediately. Now, over time, as you email those people, we've generated 95,000 for one client, over 50,000 for another, hundreds of thousands of leads of donors who want to support organizations. As you email them and you communicate, hey, we're making a difference. We're making an impact. Here's how many people we've served. Here's how many neighbors we've been able to connect with. Here's how many people in their homes who are isolated by themselves that we're making a difference for every day. And we're showing up and we're giving them smiles and we're feeding them or we're doing whatever we do. As you educate those people, they'll be able to then respond to you. I can't hear you, John, but then they'll be able to then respond to you by giving you a donation.
Or volunteering.
Or volunteering, or giving you products that you need, or masks, or whatever that is. And they're very, very helpful in that way. So that's the basis of everything that I do. We don't want to ever be a burden on nonprofits. The goal is, if this is a useful resource and you can do it, great. And that kind of goes back to another point that you made, I think, John, that's a good one for everybody to hear, is it's hard to run this. If you're a nonprofit and you're small and you're doing everything, you wear a lot of hats like I do. And by the way, I'm wearing a hat because my hair is so long that it's just a mess. You don't want to see this. But there are ways, and I'm thinking about, if this is something people would be interested in, I've been thinking about building a little bit of a course, kind of a step-by-step, how do I build out my own ad campaigns course that would help people create these things and do them themselves. Because I think with a little bit of time and a little bit of learning, you can do this yourself. The problem is to take it to the next level and get a little bit more donors and a little bit more supporters, you do have to have kind of the experience or the time like an agency like mine would. But for 2 to 3 hours a week, if you can kind of donate to that and make it a commitment for this, it will pay off dividends long term for you. So that's something that we've
yeah, and we want to kind of explain it well enough that y'all are able to go in and do it yourself. But we also know that sometimes that just isn't possible with all the duties you have, which is why we have a nonprofit essentially section of our company, which is called Donor Curve. And that we do everything from, we optimize your website, we create email series. So if someone signs something on Facebook, it automatically goes to an email series that educates them about your specific nonprofit. It educates them about what you're doing in your community. It educates them on how they can help, whether it's volunteering, whether it's providing food, whether it's providing masks, and then the last email will have a donate option as well. So we're going to essentially hit them multiple different times. It's not just a one-time thing. That marketing, they say you have to essentially hit someone 7 times to kind of get that point across. I don't know if it's because we're that dense or we're that busy or what, but you have to essentially show someone the same thing 7 times for them to understand and, you know, take value from it, if that makes sense.
I've been a school teacher for the last 30 years. Trust me, I understand how long it takes to get it through your big noggin, right?
You get it.
Yeah.
That being said, I want to be your student and we're going to move forward on this. You need to give me some direction where we're going to meet, how we're going to meet, do all those steps for me, and we're going to make this thing happen so that at least here in my community, we're going to fight to make a difference.
So there's a
John, I love that, man. And I appreciate your passion. I know that's one of the reasons we love working with nonprofits is because people like you who really care about what they're doing and what they're making a difference in their neighborhood or in the people around them. And this is something that I see as being very valuable to all nonprofits. And I think I said this before. I don't know if I said this today, but if I was starting a nonprofit today, there would be a couple of things that I would do right off the bat. It'd be apply for the Google Ad Grant, and it'd be get Facebook ads started, and it would be adjust my landing pages. That'd be it. I mean, there's not a whole lot to what my strategy would be. I'm a digital marketer though. Lauren, you have a question?
Different, you know, different.
Say, Preston, there's a handful of questions. The first one I think now just went up. Poop. I said I was going to keep up with it. Now I can't.
Oh no, my bad. I'm bad at reading and talking.
I don't know why it's not letting me scroll.
Well,
Well,
they would reject the domain every time we
There you
try and fill it out.
Several reasons.
Several
probably.
reasons. Yeah. So the domain, you have to kind of give us the error message that they're showing you, and we'll probably be able to provide value based on essentially the error message. Lauren had an issue. She was able to send it to me, and we were able to kind of figure out what it was that was the issue. We fixed it, and now she's able to get back in.
And it could be as simple as using, misspelling it. I mean, if you accidentally included an extra letter or something in your domain when you submitted it the first time, that could be an error. Like the example I gave earlier, they used .org instead of .com.
Right.
That messed up the whole process and took weeks and weeks and weeks that we didn't know happened. And the majority of these errors happen when a different person takes over. I've noticed, right? And that happens all the time in nonprofits. You got one person start a project and another person ends up taking over, and it's just confusing. Information's not passed along. So that is something. It could also be site security. I've also had simple things like this. We have a client who had a headline. You know what a headline is? It's just, hey, here's what we are, Happy Tales, blah, 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 Animal Sanctuary. And the image behind the headline made the headline hard to read. And you go, okay, well, that shouldn't really matter, right? Like Google, why would Google care about the headline being difficult? Well, they care because they care to make sure that someone who visits and sees an ad that they've run, that it's going to a high quality website that communicates clearly the message. So you may have to very critically look at your website and go, it looks good to me, but does it look good from someone else who's visiting it from the first time? Are they confused? Are they going to a donation page that has 12 steps, right? Is it very difficult for them to see the about us? Is there a mission statement? These are all things that Google looks for. Remember, you got an AI that's looking at these things first. It's checking off the boxes to give you initial approval. Once it goes through the AI, then you do have a person actually on the Google for Nonprofits account that looks it up and approves it manually. And so that's a great place to be at. But first, you got to get through that AI barrier. And these are some of the tips that we've learned.
And you really do have to have in the first page, the homepage, it has to be very clear what your message is, what you're doing, how you're doing it, step by step. It can't be kind of vague. It can't be anything like that. We've had a couple that said your mission statement needs to be cleaned up, or we've had some that says your homepage doesn't function correctly. And so I just posted the mercyinternational.org. They do have the Google Ad Grant, and we are running campaigns for them. And you can go and check out that site. It's not the most exciting site. It's not super complicated. But before we got to it, there was no information on the site. There was nothing. There was no one knew what they were doing, how they were doing it, what it cost. And so we essentially went in and we filled it out a little bit more involved. We showed pictures, and we showed, if you click on the Our Work in Haiti, there's multiple different ones. And that's what Preston was saying in regards to building out the campaigns. We built out a campaign for each of them specifically. So if somebody's searching for it, we have a better chance of essentially catching them on Google.
And it's always a work in progress, right? Like you started off with one iteration and improve over time, right? So this website, Mercy International, that we share with you, it's got a lot of things that I would like to improve upon. It needs a form on every page. It needs different fonts. It needs different things to improve. And we have a list of these things already written out that we're going to start knocking off as we can. But initially, we're getting as many people to view these pages and get us that information as possible. We're kind of a database business, right? If we get people who go to our Support the Church page and they like it more than the Feed the Hungry page, we're going to try to lean in on the Support the Church page and get more people to donate to that cause. It just depends on what people resonate with.
Okay, and let's see what else. So I did put a side example so y'all can see that. And Lauren has both of our Facebook. We're in the same group, which is how she found us. So if you have specific questions you want to ask us privately, you are welcome to. I think Lauren has it, and we'll send her that document Preston said about Google Ad Grant so that she can send it out to all of y'all. Are there identified categories of nonprofit? Absolutely. Yeah, some do perform better. You know, if someone has a nonprofit and it's about a disease that affects 1 in a million people, it's going to be harder to get people to that site, right? It's just going to be harder. But if someone is feeding, has a homeless shelter, people are actively looking for ways to support people at this time. So you just have to find the right people. And so there is going to be essentially specific ones that are going to be really good and ones that won't.
Yeah, and Google there's some things that they don't really like to touch much. You know, if
political.
It's obviously political stuff, but that's kind of a different organization. But if you're in a nonprofit and you're in the medical space, you might have some trouble there because Google has a lot more stringent requirements there. If you are in animal sanctuaries or those sorts of things, it's going to be great. A lot of people, you got to think about it too from the standpoint of how many people, since Google search, it's about searching, how many people are searching for something in my area. So if I'm a nonprofit that can get searches from around the world, then I'm going to get more searches on those topics no matter what. If I'm limited to Texas, then I'm only going to get people in Texas that can support my organization. So the larger the area, also the better that you have. But there are tools. Google has a tool that you can look up and you can see the numbers of searches per month. You can break it down per day or per week or whatever you want to break it down to, and you can see how many searches those are. So those keywords that you have on your website right now, you can go, okay, there's 10,000 people searching for how to support the homeless in my area. Great. That means if I put an ad out there, a lot of people are going to see it and a lot of people are going to click. If you see 5 people searching for that, you're going to have more trouble and you're going to have to get more creative. We talked to an organization that is like that. They have only a few thousand patients a day, or excuse me, year worldwide for this specific disease that they're facing. And it's hard to get. But I said, well, hey, what kind of diseases and categories is it similar to? And they said, well, it's very similar to Alzheimer's. It's very similar to ALS. It's very similar to a few. I said, great. We can build out campaigns targeting those topics and say, hey, if you connect with this, you'll connect with us. Here's the issue. The issue is we don't have enough money to fund these research projects. Whether you're in ALS or you're in whatever, cancer, whatever it is, there's not enough money, there's not enough opportunity to help these people. And so you can kind of piggyback off of those ideas and get a little bit further and a little bit better results than you would have if you're only targeting the things that are in your things. But that's where the keywords really matter on building out that ad campaign.
And so we're going to send over a doc. Monica, I see yours. Love this. And we're going to send over a doc to Lauren, and she's going to send it out to all of y'all. And then y'all can just kind of, if you have additional questions, you're able to send them to us. She'll have our emails and we'll be copied on it. And is there any other questions that I'm missing?
Yeah, there was an email up here about if you do that course, what's the timeline that you're thinking on doing that course?
So, I have not really thought much about it. I honestly don't know if it seems like a lot of people are interested in this. So I would like to offer something that would allow people to take a course for a very low fee that would get them the knowledge that they could just follow step by step, fill it all out, know that they feel confident that they're building the right kind of campaigns and that they're going to get approved. So if that's something people are interested in, I'll get started right away and, hopefully have it in the next month or so, because we need to try to take advantage of it quickly. In fact, probably could get something even simpler more quickly. But
well, we can do the same thing too. I can send that information out to the group when you have it.
Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And, I know a lot of nonprofits are hurting at this time because they're a little scared about asking for funding. They're worried about kind of everything that's going on, right? But we have a lot of people that are still reaching out, but they're using terminology that is important today. So right now, obviously with COVID-19, it's a whole thing. But I'd be surprised if the vast majority of your donors are actually still interested in donating to your nonprofit. If you're passionate about it and they've donated before, they're passionate in it. You just have to make sure to get the right tone and the right way to present the information that they'll understand. And so I really do recommend continuing with events, even if you have to make it a virtual event. We really recommend doing that. We still recommend sending out emails and newsletters, updating them about what you're doing. Like with John's specific thing, he's really trying to help during this time. But John, you should 100% use that. Write down the names of the people you're helping and how you're helping them, and show what other people can do to join in your cause. So use what's going on in the world to help your nonprofit.
Yeah, and on top of that, we're seeing a lot of people cancel their in-person event. We had a nonprofit that had an event scheduled for the 28th of what was March.
Yeah.
What month was that? March. And they basically said we were already going to plan to do it live for them, but we ended up basically taking it and completely doing everything live. We pre-recorded videos, we uploaded it live, we scheduled it to go to YouTube and Facebook and to have our own landing page. And we're able to raise over $100,000 for them with that online event. So, they spent 1/10 of the amount that they would have spent on their in-person event, but they were able to still make a huge amount of money for their organization and get a lot of new small dollar donors. Now, I mentioned that because the Google Ad Grant could be used then to support that, right? Get more people to follow and listen to this. And then the cool thing is every month, we can get new people who sign up for our email list to watch that webinar again as if it was live. We can schedule it out and make it look live and appear to be live, and have someone managing comments and have, someone talking to them and responding to people. So there's a lot of things that we can do there with that kind of a content. But, the first step I would say is just start to do the research in pulling up the Google for Nonprofits account, get started with that. Start looking at your website, seeing if your site security is an issue, seeing if I saw somebody say, hey, we probably need to have some people look at our websites and give us an outside idea. I mean, I don't know how often I will show my wife an email or something that I've written and go, hey, does this make sense to you? She's like, what the heck are you saying?
It depends.
And so it's good to get some feedback from an outside source who can give you a yes, no, it needs some work or something. So,
okay. Go ahead.
It looks like someone asked about an online event than our on-site event and didn't do nearly as well. There could be a bunch of different things. We really did we sent out 7 emails before the event. We also were pushing a small budget on Facebook to get new users that had never heard of us before. We were essentially trying to get them to register for the event. And I think we got 1,000 people who registered for the event.
I think it was 1,900.
1,900 people who registered for the event. And the people that were supposed to come to the event was only 350. So you can imagine that's a huge amount of people that weren't going to actually be at the event that went and saw. And we got about 3,000 people who went to the landing page. And again, we had over 100,000 in donations. So you have to set it up correctly to really maximize.
And then afterwards, you got to email them 7 times as well, at least 7 times.
So we emailed them after as well, which continued to bring in donation. It's all about how you set it up, how you present it. And it's a process, but it is worth it.
Well, and two, people say, well, what are my sponsors going to think if they're not going to, get the in-person event from these big donors? What's going to happen? Well, guess what? Sponsors get more people to see them. So they may actually be willing to kind of double down on what they're giving you. You just have to kind of approach it in the right way and go, actually, we're getting, 10 times the amount of people that were going to see you before, who are still going to see you now online. And in fact, maybe even more than that over the full year, because we're going to repeat this thing every month. My goal with this nonprofit that we just ran that 100,000 event for is we're going to do it again, in a few months once we have a new list of people, and we're going to get them to go and watch that. Now, will it get us $100,000? Probably not. But will it get us $10,000, $15,000, $20,000? My guess is yes, because it's already got the speaker. It's already got the lady who talks you through how to donate and how to give, and hey, the puppy. And you got all of that information very easy. So I think it's going to work really well.
And remember, once you run an event, you should be able to take from that event and figure out kind of what you want to do differently, what you thought worked really well, and what you thought you would do differently, and kind of put it in a plan. And then for the next time, do that.
Yeah. So we're kind of getting on rabbit trails. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of things we'd like to share with you, and we can dive into all of this. I think a lot of it will be, if you want to contact us and set up a call separately, we'd be happy to do that. If it makes sense and we should build a Google course on how to do this, I'm down to do it. I just, my goal is not to make tons of money. My goal is to help you guys and be efficient. So if it makes sense, I'll do it, and I'll share it with you guys. So I am all about providing value, and I hope this has been helpful. So
yeah, thank you guys so much. And so they'll send me the form. I'll forward it with email addresses and form, and you guys can either reach out to them that way. You can reach out through Facebook. Please also join that Facebook, the nonprofits page. You'll see a ton of posts from me all the time about, or I think I posted today about something. So it's a good way to ask for help, not ask for, just say like, hey, does anyone use this system, or does anyone do this, or what's their favorite way? And they post a ton of websites, especially in COVID, about how to do, like Preston or Rebecca did, about how to have an online event. So there's a ton of things going on in that group that would be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah,
we just ran a webinar about it. We also have YouTube videos. So if you check out our YouTube channel, it's Cone Creatives, you can look that up. Check out my website, it's donorcurve.com. And take a look at, we got some resources there and things for you guys as well. So
so
take advantage.
Definitely ask us questions. That nonprofit group is great. It's so helpful to just be able to talk to other people that are in the same kind of, y'all are trying to do good for the world, but you want to do it in the most efficient, time-saving, money-saving way, right? So it's great.
Yeah.
Real quick question, if you don't mind. Are you available this week?
We're available, John. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Write this down. 619-857-6164.
Hold on.
No,
Right
we're
on my
not.
hand. Right on my hand.
I can send it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Either way.
Okay.
210, what was it?
619.
619-857-6164.
Okay.
Done.
Thanks, John.
Guys.
Let's get together this week. We have a world. We need to figure out how to fix it.
We love it. We
I like
love
it,
it.
guys.
Thanks
I
to
hope
all
this
of
is helpful.
y'all.
Thanks, guys.